Carl needs to give me the thumbs up.
And we're live.
Good morning, everyone. On this beautiful September morning, I'd like to welcome you all to our September 13th Clean Water Committee meeting. I hope everyone's doing well. So I'm looking at this point in time is an approval of the agenda and supplemental, if any.
There is no supplemental.
Okay.
I see Bill
So
and
I'm
I see
looking-
Doug, Madam Chair.
Bill and Doug.
And Doug.
Glenn? Oh, Doug, sorry.
Oh, thanks, Glenn.
First time I beat you, Glenn.
So any additions or to that agenda? Anyone opposed? I'm going to do the opposed route. Seeing none, we'll move forward. Okay, at this point in time, we need some declarations of conflict of interest. And I understand that is Bill and Francois on an item on number 5C.
Right.
Yes. So
Okay.
Bill,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay.
Bill Smurl and Francois St. Amour declaring conflict of interest as board members of South Nation Conservation, given that the item under 5C, business arising, is the South Nation application to the EORP program.
Thank you for the explanation there, Rhonda. Is there any other conflicts of interest throughout the membership? Hearing none, we'll move forward. So we're on to item number 4, which is request for approval. And item number A is Clean Water Committee meeting minutes of June 7th, 2021. So I'm looking for a mover.
Also move, Russell.
Russell, thank you.
I'll
Second
second
by
that, Andre.
Andre. Thank you both. Any errors or omissions? Again, any errors or omissions? Hearing none, is anyone opposed? Call that carried. Thank you. Item number 5, business arising from minutes. So item number A is the deferred clean water grant applications.
Just bear with me for one moment. I need to call
No
our
problem,
landowner
Rhonda.
in.
These are Andre's first day, Rhonda.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yes, you're correct. I'll
So
call our
these-
applicant in while we.
These projects were deferred as we required more information.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
second. I better. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Very good. Can I go ahead?
Rhonda, are you ready for the first one?
Yes, the first two are cover crops and they're verbals from Andre. I forgot about those.
Okay. So
Right.
if you want to go ahead, Andre, thank you very much.
Okay. I have two to cover crop. I'm not sure which one. Doesn't matter, I guess. The first one was a project was deferred for more information, asking for more information. And it was seated down in 2021, fall of 2021. And it was still in the spring of 2020, sorry. It was seated down 2020, fall of 2020. And it was still in spring of 2021. So it does qualify for the cover crop project since it was overwintered the winter of 2021.
Okay. Is there any questions of Andre on that particular project? It was deferred to ensure that the crop was not harvested. Is that correct?
That is
Yes.
correct. And we did not score this one, so just bear with me. I'm just going to the last meeting to grab, because I didn't have it in the slide deck, the rating sheet for you.
Andre, while Rhonda's doing that, did you want to go on to the next ones for
Next.
the information?
Yeah, the next one was a similar one. It was rye, which was seeded down, winter rye, which mixture of winter rye and wheat, which was seeded down in the fall of 2021. So it did overwintered, and actually the rye was harvested in late July of 21.
Okay, so you did say 2021, it was seeded down. You did mean 2020, is that correct? Fall of
Yeah,
2020?
2020, yes, fall of
Okay.
2020.
Okay. So Rhonda, you have the rating up. It was not rated
Yes.
by the committee.
No, it was not. It was deferred last time for clarification. I see Russell has his hand up, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Russell, go ahead, please.
If I remember from last spring's meeting, that the question was the end use of the product or the crop that was growing. And if they've harvested it rather than just using it as a cover crop, I'm not sure that, as Alan pointed out as well, like that was the issue. We weren't sure what he was doing with, or they were doing with their overwintering crops, whether they were no-tilling it in, spraying it down, and then growing another crop. But obviously the second one has harvested the crop, which many farmers do. And I'm not sure if the other was, from Andre's comment, whether it was seeded down or underneath it, or no-tilled or sprayed down, or what he did with that crop this year.
Yeah, Russell, the first one, which I did comment in, was till in the spring of 2021. Then it was seeded down to, not alfalfa, sorry, soybean, I believe.
Okay. But the second one was harvested.
Second one was harvested, but it was the same thing. It was seeded in the fall of 2020 with a mixture of winter rye and winter wheat. And it was overwintered, and I guess the rye came along good, so he decided to keep to harvest the rye.
But that was following year.
Following year.
Yes.
But he harvested the crop, which many farmers do, rather than just using it for an overwintering crop. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to pack to Rhonda if there, or Lori, is there any concerns about
I
that
see a hand up,
second
Madam
one?
Chair.
Yeah,
Alan
I
had his
see.
hand up.
Alan, if you want to chime in, that's absolutely fine. Alan Krezel? His hand has gone down.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull up the guidelines for everyone.
Okay, so at this point in time, I think we need to rate it based on the information that was provided.
So we do require that crops that are planted for cover crops are non-harvested and non-grazed. That's right out of our guidelines.
Okay. So understanding that, we will rate the first one, which was not harvested.
So for Glenn's sake, who's on the phone, you don't have this in your slide deck, Glenn, but I've just pulled up the rating sheet. The sub-score right now of 22 is 18 points. So if folks can remember their voting number, I'll start calling out the numbers to vote on the first project, number 16. Voter number 1.
4.
Number 2.
4.
Number 3.
4.
Number 5. Sure, Alan, I can see your mic is live. We just can't hear you.
Yeah, 3.
Thank you. Number 7.
3.
Number 9.
4.
Number 11. Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking 13. Oh, well. 3.
Number 13.
3.
Number 14.
4.
I don't believe we have. Just let me check who's on. Nope. Okay, number 16. Uh, 16, that would be Bill.
3.
Thank you. 17.
Okay, is that Francois?
It is.
Okay, 3. All right.
And I'm just going to check. I don't think our last one's on. Oh, okay. Adrian is on. Adrian.
4.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you.
So 3.5.
Sorry. That was the average, Rhonda, 3.5.
Yes, the average is 3.5.
And total score bringing?
Should be 21.5.
1.5.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next one for rating. If you're there, comfortable with that, Rhonda?
Get the next one up. So this again was harvested, Andre.
Yes, it was.
So again, it's up to the committee. The guidelines don't specify when harvesting, but it does specify non-harvest, non-grazed.
Okay, any further discussion required? Any
Motion to
motions
deny.
on the floor? Sorry?
Motion to deny.
Alan, there's a motion to deny. Alan Krezel, I need a seconder, please.
I'll
Tara?
second that.
Tara, I saw your hand up. Was that a question or to second?
Sorry, it was a question, Madam Chair.
Okay, so who seconded it? Sorry?
I did, Russell.
Russell, thank you. So Alan, Russell, and we'll have some discussion. Tara?
Oh, thank you.
Question?
Yeah, I did have a question because I know that Andre explained, but I can't remember exactly when the crop was harvested. I was interested to know if it was after the winter. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, it was
Yes.
it was harvested, and don't have the exact date, but I think it was late July, beginning of August.
Okay, so essentially, like for the purposes of the cover crop, it served its purpose for an overwintering crop that retains or helps prevent soil erosion. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any further questions, discussion? Anyone opposed? Seeing none? Seeing none, I'll say that motion is carried. And that's denying based on guidelines.
Okay, and I'm just going to dial in our landowner.
Madam Chair and Rhonda, it's Terence Covey from AFRA. I just dialed in by phone. Seems that I can't access via my computer and my phone this time.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Terence.
Thanks, Terence, and welcome.
I'm just dialing in our applicant for the first appeal under 5B.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, hi, is this Richard?
Yeah.
Good morning, Richard. I've just dialed you in to the Clean Water Committee meeting. Just wanted to let you know that we are live streaming and recording just for your information.
Okay, thank you. Who am I speaking with?
This is Rhonda, but the entire committee is here.
Okay, perfect.
Good morning and welcome. So my name's
Thank
Jackie
you.
Pemberton and I'm chair of the Clean Water Committee. All right, so we're
Good
on
morning.
to the appeals. Item B, 5B1. So I'm looking.
So we do have your photos that you submitted up on the screen that is being shared with the committee, and the applicant's appeal letter you'll find on page 13 of your agenda package.
Rhonda, would it be possible to just to highlight the letter for us?
Sure. We have on the line applicant for grant 2020 NAT CW08. Their project was presented at the June meeting, was considered a low priority and was denied. The applicant has been at the residence that's being applied for a couple of years now, since 2018. They've noticed some erosion occurring on their shoreline, noting several cracks which are circled in the photo provided by the landowner. And I would invite our applicant, I guess, to explain their situation and to present their reasons for asking for a reconsideration from the committee members.
Thank
Great,
you, Rhonda.
thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not sure if the photos do the situation justice, in so much as the slope near the river itself has become more acute since I've been there, although I couldn't say with any certainty how much land has been eroded, although I can tell you that some has, as my backyard has gotten smaller, marginally smaller. But again, as you can see by the shoreline itself, chunks have fallen off, not in a straight line, but there's a small peninsula along the way. The cracks that are in the ground, again, the photos don't really do them justice, but they are several feet back from the shoreline in some instances, and they are getting they got larger through the summer. Mind you, it was a dry summer, but my concern is those are going to just fall into the river because there's really nothing holding them there. And as you can see by the angle of the shoreline, it is quite steep relative to the rest of the yard. And those are, basically my thoughts on it. It does concern me that it is such a steep grade, and that these cracks are so close to the water line that I'm sure they will fall off eventually. I couldn't say with any certainty that they're going to be, this spring or next spring, but I think my shoreline is deteriorating, and definitely more than I would want it to. So that's why I'm getting the stuff done. Pardon me?
Okay, thank you. I'm just wanting to get a better understanding for our committee members what your proposed project will be.
Okay. So the proposed project has gone through the South Nation, and I don't have those documents in front of me, but it's basically a erosion prevention where there'll be geotech fabric put in.
You're good. Continue,
Hello?
please.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
So
good. Continue, please.
Okay. Okay. So the geotech fabric is going in, and then rocks on top of that, so it'll stabilize the shoreline. Is the hope, anyway.
Okay. Right, and for purposes of the committee, Rhonda has put up, presented in the agenda package, the conceptual design.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any questions?
And just as a reminder, these are the photos that were shared at the June meeting. For those on the phone, this is not in the slide deck I sent yesterday. Apologies, I forgot to add it. So the picture on the bottom was the conceptual design that the landowner was proposing. That's not a completed project for the landowner. It's a photo of what they were proposing to do on their shoreline.
Thank you, Rhonda. Is everyone clear on that in what they're seeing?
And I can't remember exactly what the photos were. However, I have spoken with Brent Harper through email and readjusted that proposal based on suggestions from DFO. So it's slightly different, the same type of thing, but the photo isn't really going to be similar to what will happen. There's, I think in that photo, there's great big flat stones.
Yes, that's
correct.
On the shoreline. So I'm not doing that. The price came back a little outside of what I wanted to spend for that. So it'll just be the smaller rocks along the shore, not, I forget what they're called, the slabs.
Okay, thank you for that. Again, I'll ask the committee, is there any questions of the landowner, the appellant? Hearing none at this time.
Madam Chair, I do have a question through you. Just for clarification, the diagram that we have showing what's proposed doesn't indicate width of buffer at top of bank. So any approved projects are required a 3-meter minimum buffer. Just looking for some clarification on grass buffer width at the top of the proposed project.
Okay, so I will ask that of the appellant. Is there intention to a grass buffer or more tree lines, or is that your intention at the top, and what length that would be?
I'm sorry, I don't really understand the question.
So guidelines for the projects require
Right.
a minimum of a 3-meter buffer at top of bank, right, to protect from further erosion. So that would
Right.
be a buffer that would be kept in grasses, as in not mowed to the shoreline, or planted in some stabilizing shrubs like red dogwood along the shoreline to ensure that future it will remain stable. Your conceptual design does not show that.
I wasn't aware that it was required. So the project has been approved, and I've got the permit from South Nation for it. So I'm not sure how to answer the question. That was never mentioned, so I don't know.
So
this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay, so approval probably through South Nation is to ensure that it will meet the requirements to stabilize the shoreline. But in the application side of the Clean Water Program, the guidelines require a further insurance that the shoreline above is a minimum of 3 meters. Am I being clear there? Rhonda, perhaps you could help me out. And
Yeah,
I see there's a few questions.
Yes. So that is correct. So the approval that the applicant currently has would be through our permitting process. So that is a separate process to the Clean Water Program, although applicants with approved projects must have their permits in place. So the applicant does have the permit. Their buffer requirement, though, is, as Jackie mentioned, a requirement of the Clean Water Program, not of the regulations under the Conservation Authority. So it's an additional requirement of the program that's granting the funding. So just to be clear, it does not affect the permit, but it affects whether or not projects are approved through the program. And I saw Russell's hand and then Bill.
Yeah, Russell, your hand was first, so go ahead.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, then according to the picture here, we've got flat stones and our landowner says not, is he using then the Gabion rock, like the bigger rock pieces, and to do the whole shoreline?
My understanding.
I believe it was riprap as opposed to armor stone.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, thank you.
Bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, was the reason for the denial because we did not have the confirmation that there would be shrubs or long grass left for the 3 meters along the riverbank? And if that wasn't fully explained, that's probably an error. But if my memory serves me correctly, that was part of the reason.
It was considered a low priority because, again, this is the information we had at the June meeting. So I've put back up on the screen the photos that came to the committee in June. Reminder, to the committee members that at the time we were not able to conduct site visits because of COVID restrictions. So applicants were sending in information. Our staff were not out on site. So based on the information we had in June, the committee considered it a low priority. and denied it based on the photos that you're seeing and the description we had at that time. And I'm not sure, I know Jason's on the line. I'm not sure if Jason has anything else he wants to add from the initial application or any of the updates we've received.
Yeah, I believe some of the comments were well, yeah, just the extent of the erosion compared to what we've seen in other applications as well.
Okay, thank you. Alan, you have a question?
Yeah, my question is actually for Jason. So, Jason, have you been out to the site?
I have not, no.
Okay. Given the new pictures you've seen and the stuff coming from the landowner, to any of the information you provided us in June, the scoring on that sheet, does it change at all, or is it exactly the same as it was in the June?
My scoring remains the same.
Okay.
Bill, I saw your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Then my question kind of remains the same. If one of the reasons we accept these is because we know that and by the way, I believe the erosion is severe, and I compliment the landowner for looking at how he can ameliorate the situation. But my concern is still the same. If we didn't, or it wasn't discussed that there should be long grass left in that 3 meters and or shrubs there, I think that's something that has to be incorporated if we're going to agree to it, because cutting the grass right down to the bank will probably not help it as much as we would like.
And as indicated, it's part of the guidelines, a requirement, if approved.
I mention it though because it seemed not to be understood when the landowner explained this a few minutes ago. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Yeah,
Madam Chair, I can
Sorry.
provide a bit more information. Lori, thank you, has sent me the letter that we sent the applicant following the June meeting. So we did deny it based on the project description that was submitted. The committee didn't consider it to be active erosion at the time. Based on the photos we had, the committee at the time recommended a buffer of shrubs as perhaps an option for what we considered minor erosion at that time. So there was an invite to reapply for the buffer grant, but of course we have now heard that it's a bit more substantial than what we first thought. So the committee at the time, based on the photos we had, felt it was not active erosion.
Okay. May I ask a question of the appellant? At this time, understanding that the requirement requires a 3 meter buffer, is that something you're willing to do for funding?
I would have to look at my lawn, I guess. The 3 meters is a substantial, like, again, I'm just kind of confronted with this. As Rhonda had said, I was given the letter of denial, which said I could apply for a grant for shrubs or trees or something like that, which I don't think is going to solve my issue. But I have never put my mind to the idea of having 3 meters or what that would look like. So, you know, the 12-ish feet would cut into my yard. Again, the amount that I'm losing from the erosion, the amount that will, you know, they have to put the rocks in, etc. I just don't know what it would look like.
Okay.
Or how usable that portion of my, does it have to be, so it's 100 feet. Does that mean there's 100 feet of shrubs that I would never see the water? Or like I just can't visualize what you're saying.
3 feet, 3 meters.
3 meters top of bank is along the entire water course.
So there would be bush for 3 meters for 100 feet of my waterfront. Is that what?
Just to clarify, it can be a grass buffer as well. So
yes.
It does not have to have trees and shrubs, although we recommend, because they do actually help hold the bank, but a grass buffer is acceptable.
So I have grass right now. That's acceptable?
Tall grass.
Yeah, but The committee would be looking for something that's sort of established, permanent, not mowed, not manicured. They see, and that's the intent, is to prevent runoff and help stabilize with, you know, different species of grasses.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So at this point,
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question without having thought about it.
okay, thank you very much for your honesty. At this
Madam
point in time,
Chair, if the
sure.
committee's, if it rates out and the committee's interested, we can always work with the landowner to help establish a buffer. So we'll see where the rating lands. But if it is approved, we can work with the landowner. There will be a buffer requirement, but we can help the landowner sort out what that would look like on his property.
Okay. So Rhonda, my question is the landowner stay on the line while we do the rating? Yes?
He can. I mean, typically we would be open to the public, so he could watch it on the live stream, or we could do it live now. It's up to the committee.
So I'm comfortable with continuing on. I show of hands if no one isn't. All right.
I don't have to be part of it if it's more convenient for you to not. I know you'll notify me at some point, so
Okay.
I'm good either way.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to come back and speak with us on this today, and we'll move forward with the rating, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Did you want me to hang up then, or?
It's up to
stay
you.
on?
You can stay on.
Okay.
Okay.
All
So I
right,
do have the scoring sheet up. We have a sub-score of 16 out of 22. And I'll start with voter number 1.
4.
Number 2.
4.
Number 3.
3.
Number 5.
3.
Number 7.
2.
Number 9.
Two.
Oh, they're perfect. Thank you. 11.
2.
12. 'Andre, you're muted, my friend. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, 2.
Thank you. 13.
3.
14.
Go with 3.
15. Might have lost. No, we did lose him. Okay. 16.
5 with the incorporation of the recommendations.
Thank you. 17. We lost 17. Okay. And 18.
4.
Thank you. So 3.1 is the sub-score. So give me 1 second. And 19.1 will be the final score on that one. And at this point, thank you, applicant, for joining us. I'm going to disconnect your call now for the remainder of the meeting. Have yourself a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rhonda, Madam Chair, what does this score mean in regard to this file?
At this point, it's likely going to, well, it would be placed on the waiting list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that will be addressed at the November meeting. So between now and then, Jason and I can follow up with the landowner a bit more, re the buffer.
Because he does seem to be very conscientious and willing to work. So maybe there is a solution.
Also, as perhaps we should take a look at the application again sometimes in the clarity of the requirement of buffer. Because it's, you know, as a site rep, I know it's on all material, but for some reason it was not portrayed to the applicant very well in his opportunity to design.
I see a hand up, Madam Chair, from Andre.
Oh, go
Yes.
ahead, Andre, sorry.
Yeah, it's in regard to the buffer strip. I believe they might be able to use perennials, and if they don't like tall grasses or shrubs. That's my feeling, but I think I've seen perennials in place sometime.
Thank you for that, Andre. Terrence? Terrence, your hand is up.
You're muted, Terrence.
Yep. What's my number, by the way, Rhonda?
You are 15.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we're going to move on to item number 5B, number 2.
Madam Chair, I
Jason,
see
you're going
Bill's
to give
hand.
us.
Oops, no.
Sorry,
Bill's
nope.
hand came up, but it went down again.
All right. So this is an erosion
Madam
control. Sorry,
Chair,
Bill?
if I could, can I just add to what Andre said? And you also could use pollinators. There are many people that are now getting involved with planting pollinators and making sort of a wildflower established area they are quite attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, it would be something that we need to do as a committee, looking at these guidelines in regards to erosion projects and what that buffer entails. So good points, though. Absolutely.
For
All
the
right, so
the next two items, the updates for CAS CW03 and CW06. Both of these projects are on the waiting list, but I thought it would be helpful for the committee to refresh your memory on what we've been accepting as sort of high priority projects in this one area of Castleman, because we've had a lot of applications from this subdivision area. So up on your screen is the conceptual design from which we've been basically grading projects coming in from this area against. So ideally, what you're seeing on the screen is a large buffer with some shoreline stabilization. So this buffer happens to be 15 meters. It's what the committee established as a high priority project in this area. This diagram is provided to applicants that don't provide us with buffer information to let them know sort of what is a high priority in this area for the committee. So this information has been provided to the two projects that are coming up. They were given information with their letter stating that if they had additional information that may affect the scoring, that they could send in additional information clarifying the width of the buffer. So Jason has a couple of updates from those two projects. Just wanted to show you the conceptual design again, so it's fresh of mind.
Good morning, everyone. So the as you can see in the photos here, there is active erosion. It's may not be as extensive as we've seen in other applications, but there is, as you can see, erosion there. And the proposed work, actually, if you can move to the next slide, there is a kind of a cross section there. You can see there is the geotextile with the riprap, and they do show that there is now the buffer following the example from a few slides back, with you know, to reduce the manicured lawn, as they noted on there. There's some trees, some extra vegetation. So in this case, my score has been it raised a few points on my end for this file here.
So this project did score at the June meeting 18.3. The committee's combined score was 2.8. So it's a question back to the committee based on clarification of the buffer width if they wish to rescore this project.
So based on that information or the new information, I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and rescore as a committee. Anyone opposed to that? Alan, you have your hand up, so I'm looking for.
Yeah, I just had a question, Madam Chair.
Sure, go ahead.
If I'm looking at the sketch, I see 15 feet of riprap. And where exactly is the buffer?
There's
50 feet on the
yeah, of eco lawn fescue meadow.
It says
at the bottom.
adjacent. Okay, but so you don't cut that then?
That's right.
Okay, so that 50 feet of eco lawn is actually the buffer. Okay.
Clear as mud
Yeah.
or long?
But yeah, it is in the same area as the previous applicant was.
No, the previous applicant, I believe, Jason, is in a different area.
That's right. The other one's on the Castor River, I believe.
Okay.
So this particular project, just for clarification, is in the same area that Rhonda had provided, you know, the conceptual design for, right? To compare to. All right. Any questions on that? Any concerns about re-rating at this time? Everybody's comfortable with that? If not, let me know. If not, we'll proceed. Thank you.
Okay, number 1,
4,
number 2,
4,
3,
4,
5,
4,
7,
3,
9,
3.
11,
4,
12,
4,
13,
5,
14,
4,
15,
4.
16.
4.
I think we don't have 17. Nope. Okay. 18.
4,
Thank you. 3.9 is the new score. Second. So 19.9.
Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you, everyone. So Jason, we'll move on to the next one, which is CW06, and you'll find it on page 16. Sorry, people.
So like the last application, this one, they did provide more info. There is some erosion along the shoreline, as you can see in the photos. If you can go to the next slide, they did provide a lot more detail. They do have a 15-meter buffer, you can see at the top, and they do provide a landscaping plan with the native species listed at the bottom. And they will be repairing the shoreline with the riprap over geotextile. And again, my score was bumped up a few points as well.
Okay. Anyone have any questions of Jason in regards to this project and further information? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and score.
Second here. Okay. Number 1.
4,
2,
3,
Russell.
Russell?
3,
5. Thank you, Russell.
4,
7,
3,
9,
3.
7,
4,
12,
4,
15,
5,
14,
5,
15,
3.
16,
4.
and 18.
4,
Okay, 3.8.
Thank you, everyone.
So 19.8 is the final score on that one.
Thank you again, Jason and Rhonda. So moving on to item number 4, and this is CW04. Again, this was for updates on scope of work. And
I can tag team with Jason on this one. I can start and then he
perfect.
can fill
Thank
in.
you.
So CW04 and CW05 are neighboring properties with a water course in the middle. Both were denied in June. Again, we had not been out to the site because of COVID restrictions. So what we had was some photos and the cost estimate for the work at the time. The photos don't really do justice for what we had on the erosion at these sites. So Jason and I have, since the June meeting, been on site and have some additional photos and information to provide with you. Also, in speaking to the landowner, they didn't have a complete quote when it came in the June meeting. So the committee did have questions around would the proposed project actually solve the erosion that was indicated in the application form, because the cost was quite low at the time. Since the June meeting, the applicants of both projects 04 and 05 have resubmitted updated quotes. We have additional information on the proposed project and we have some additional photos. So again, water course in the middle, CW04, CW05, one on either side. Jay, I don't know if you want to speak to the photos, and then I do have a video that the landowner supplied to us of the volume of water that does come down the system in the spring.
Sure. Yeah, the photos, it's hard to capture what the extent when you have these little smaller photos, but when we're on site, you can see that there was quite a bit of erosion. Some spots were maybe 10 feet drop, almost vertical at some locations. There is a shed on one of the properties that is erosion's getting close to that building as well. And the proposed work, they will be doing some regrading of the banks, placing the geotextile, placing clear stone about 3 feet up of the bank on either side. The reason why they're going 3 feet is that the high water during the spring, or the erosive flows, it goes up about 2 feet. So they're going higher than what the flows that they typically see in the spring. The intent is to basically slow that velocity within the channel along their property, so to slow down the active erosion.
Okay. Is there any questions of Jason?
I can just play this while chatting. This is the spring flows.
And again, Rhonda, this is not deemed a municipal drain, correct?
It is not. So the
And
applicant
there's a
has, sorry, I was just going to say the applicant has approached the municipality. However, they do not have the minimum number of landowners upstream wishing to petition for municipal drain, so that was not an option for the landowner.
Okay, thank you. Russell, go ahead with your question.
Is there any inclusion of a buffer strip or identifying that the buffer strip is adequate there in this case on either side?
Yeah, by the nature of the channel itself, if they leave their like they're going up to the 3 feet, everything up along the bank up onto the property would be left to go natural. So they would have that length there.
Okay. Any follow-up, Russell, or?
No, I was just couldn't pick that up from the photos.
Okay, Alan, go ahead.
I guess my question has to do with number 5 on the sub-watershed health score. So no score available to be prorated. So what do we do with that?
Yes, so because this is in one of our extended jurisdiction areas in Alfred Plantagenet, we don't have enough data in order to give it a watershed score at this point. So what I've done is I've prorated the sub-score out of to equal what it would have been had there been a score of 22. So basically it's the same percentage of points, just prorated to reflect a score out of 22 so we can compare it with the remaining projects.
Okay, so that 13.5 is out of 22?
Yes.
10,
I'm
11.
just gonna
but
redo my map
that
here.
doesn't have
It
any
looks,
number.
okay, hang on,
Yeah,
give me
but
1
that,
second.
that gives it nothing for the sub-watershed score in the subtotal, but is still using it in the total score.
Score, yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry. That was, hang on 1 second, 13. 16. Sorry, that, nope, that's not right either. Give me 1 second. Math on a fly on a Monday morning.
We like to keep you on your toes, Rhonda. Good catch, Alan.
I had my coffee this morning.
And I need my second one, so.
Needless to say, it's the same for the other one.
18.5, sorry about that.
Okay. Same thing for the other one, Rhonda.
Yes, correct. Must not have
Okay,
had my
so
coffee before I scored that one.
I see no further questions for Jason or Rhonda in regards to this. So perhaps we should go through the scoring again with the committee based on the information and the new design that was discussed and
So
the
I do
degree of
believe
erosion.
these are exactly the same, Madam Chair. So if the committee wishes, we can score both at the same time, given that the proposed projects are one on either side of the bank.
Yeah. So everybody's in clear understanding of that. The score that you're giving is for both applications. Question from Alan. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more quick one, if I may. So, over what length are we doing this project? Are we tackling all the erosion along that whole water course along their entire property, or are there areas that are worse than others and they're targeting those?
I think my understanding is they're going to work on what they can with the money that they have, and then if they have to reapply, they will reapply to finish off the following years.
Does that answer your question, Alan, for clarification?
So they are targeting the priority location where the watercourse actually drops slope at one section. That's the section they're focusing on because that's causing the flows to speed up. So that's their priority section, and depending on available funding, they'll go as far as they can along the stretch of their shoreline.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So I think we're good to rate, Rhonda.
Okay.
And again, I'll remind you the rating you're giving is for both applicants' projects.
So number 1.
Has left the building.
Doug.
4.
Number 2.
5.
3.
4.
5.
5.
7.
4.
9.
3.
11.
5.
12.
5.
13.
5.
14.
5.
15.
5.
16.
4.
I believe 17 is on the line. Give me 1 second. I'll check. Nope. 18.
5.
4.2. 22.7.
And everything else is the same?
Correct.
Okay. I thank you everyone for that. I think too it sort of highlighted some of the challenges of trying to do projects virtually in this regard.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
was just wondering, do we have a policy on landowners applying and doing the same project and getting 2 grants to do the same project?
Yes, there is a limitation. Rhonda can maybe highlight that, but there is.
So it's one project type per year, with the exception of well decommissioning, but we have allowed larger erosion projects to apply in phases if budgeting was a restriction. So we have in the past seen applications come in subsequent years to continue work along a project that was completed the year before.
Okay, but how about two landowners applying to do the same project?
It doesn't happen very often. We have had side-by-side neighbors more frequently, but have not had as many where they've been on either side of the watercourse, although I think we've had a few in the past. They're just not as common.
Okay, it just seems maybe a little unfair to those that don't have a neighbor to partner with. These folks are actually getting double the money to repair an erosion issue compared to others, right?
So we hear you, Alan, and again, when we take a look at our guidelines next spring, that's something to remind us to bring up again.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Lori's very good at duly noting things like that, so we don't forget about them.
Just those discussion items that we bring up throughout the year when we're reviewing the guidelines is good. We don't always remember those instances when we're sitting back and reviewing again. So thank you for that. So we're moving on to page 19, and this is the Eastern Ontario Water Resources Program applications.
So just a reminder for this one, we only did have 2 applications come in for the program this year in June. Both were submitted by South Nation Conservation. One was approved. The second one was scored. However, the committee wished to hold off until the September meeting to see if there were any additional interest. We've not received any additional interest. I've spoke to most of our usual applicants, and for whatever reason, they've chose not to apply this year, probably because they have very busy workloads already. So we're bringing this one back. It did receive a score of 18.9 out of 20 at the June meeting. So Kat can refresh your memory on what this project is about, and then the committee can choose if they wish to rescore the project or let the original score of 18.9 stand.
Okay. Welcome, Kat, if you're here. If you can just sort of give us a refresher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so the proposal is on page 19 of your agenda package. Rhonda, I wasn't sure if it's possible to bring up the staff update, just because there's a couple slides in there that give a decent overview of the project.
This one?
That's great. Yes, perfect. Thank you. So we actually applied for funding last year for the first part of this project, and it was using our groundwater, surface water, hydrologic model to start modeling some different scenarios and start analyzing our catchments based on which ones might be more vulnerable to climate change. So you'll see in the map, that's the South Nation watershed. All of our 4th order catchments are delineated there. We looked at two different, I guess, inputs, one being forecasted changes in land use, and the other being forecasted changes in precipitation. And we were looking at timelines of looking out to about 2050 as well as 2080. In terms of projected land use change, the numbers or the literature says that we can expect population increases of approximately 30% by 2046. And we were working with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada and the University of Ottawa. They've done some modeling work to look at land conversion to urban or land conversion to cropland within the next, within those timelines out to 2050, out to 2080. So this map shows the catchments. They're color coded based on the increase in percent imperviousness. So the percentage of natural cover that will be converted to hard surfaces. And then those blue symbols are the modeling results of increases to flow. So that's one parameter that we looked at. The other parameter that we looked at is projected precipitation increases due to climate change. So if we go to the next slide, Rhonda. So we did a lot of research into expected increases in precipitation, again, looking out to 2050 and 2100. And the International Panel on Climate Change actually just updated their climate science from their 2014 report. So taking into account new observations, new trends, and new projections. And so the number that they have is that with every 1 degree increase in temperature, we can expect a 7% increase in extreme precipitation. But what we ended up doing, we ended up just applying bulk increases to precipitation to look at how that impacts catchment flows. And again, we're seeing some pretty significant increases in flows. So with a 25% precipitation increase, we are seeing increased flow by, it ranges, but you can see there from 42%, there's a little bit of an error there, but on average, it was around 25 to 50% on average. And of course, there's extremes there with some catchments showing greater percent increase in flows and some showing lower. So, so that's sort of a quick summary of our year one project. What we wanted to do with this this proposal that you have in front of you now is to take all of this work and look at how this could impact floodplains. So we would, anywhere that we have updated floodplains, we would take these new flow numbers and rerun the models, looking at how these increases in flow could impact floodplains. And not only that, but also look at how we might be able to mitigate those increases to floodplains by changing, again, the land use, putting in more forested land, putting in maybe more wetlands in certain catchments to see if that makes an impact. So we do have funding within the SNC 2021 budget to complete some of this work, and we were looking for matching funding from the Eastern Ontario Water Resources Program. So our request was for $12,000 to do the next phase of this project.
Thank you, Kat, for that. Is there any further questions of Kat at this time? Seeing none. So at this time, we will rescore.
Or you can choose to let your score stand. It's up to you. Part of the question at the last meeting too was on the budget, which has been clarified. I also neglected to mention when we started this item that this is the item that Bill and Francois are in conflict of. Just to note that for the minutes. Also, just a note that available funding. The request is for 12,000. We have 11,800 available. You'll note on page 23, I do have a typo there, which I'll address when we get to that one, but there is 11,800 available for allocation, not the full 12,000 that's requested.
Okay.
So
Any discussion? Any questions? Any motions?
Motion to keep our scores from last time, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm looking for a seconder for that.
Andre, I'll second that.
Okay. So the motion is to keep scoring from last. Just to highlight what that score was, please, Rhonda.
It was
Just for everyone.
18.9. So relevance to EORM's goals and recommendations, out of 10 points, it scored 9.6. Project location, applicability, and transferability, out of 5 points, scored 4.6. And percent of budget EORP funds and allocation allocated to the project, out of 5 points, 4.6, for a total of 18.9.
Okay, thank you. So the motion's on the floor to keep the scoring. Anyone opposed to that? Seeing none, that's carried.
So we do need a motion to approve if that is the wish of the committee.
Okay, so I'm looking for a mover if that's the wish.
Motion to approve up to the available budget.
All right, seconded
Ray,
by
second.
Ray, thank you. Any further discussion on that? The motion is to approve based on available funding. See anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you. Okay, so on to the next item on our agenda is number 6, and it is a staff update.
Hello again, everyone. So this is just to update on the other Eastern Ontario Water Resource Program project that we're currently in the midst of working on. So it's a new climate station located within the city of Ottawa, within the headwaters of the Bear Brook. We had a data gap within that area. So it was identified as an area that would really be beneficial to have a climate station, not only a climate station, but also a stream gauge in that area. We looked for available properties, and there was a really great location on National Capital Commission land. They were happy to partner with us. We've since signed a land access permit with them, and we've since ordered all of the equipment. So that station will be installed this fall. It'll include real-time data for water levels, water levels, precipitation, snow depth, soil moisture, a real range of parameters that SNC makes use of in our flood forecasting and warning and low water response programs.
Thank you. Any questions of Kat? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't rehash sort of the summary that I gave for this climate vulnerability study, unless there's any questions from anybody on some of those those 2 slides that I presented earlier.
Any questions of Kat in this regard? Seeing none.
And last one is from me. So you may recall last year, we did create the Healing Place, which is a partnership between South Nation, local First Nation communities, Mohawks of Waksasni, Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, Algonquins of Shabata-Badgewan, Force Ontario, and Ontario Power Generation. The site was planted last fall, just north of Shanley, on one of the properties that South Nation owns. We did host an event last year. However, unfortunately, we had to scale back the number of attendees to meet COVID gathering restrictions. So we're hoping this year that we'll see a larger crowd at the site. So we will send some additional information. We're just finalizing details with our working group, but we are looking to host an event remembering the children, of course, in reflection of the recent discoveries of mass graves for residential schools. So we're hoping to do that Thursday, October the 14th. We do have a civic number now up at the Healing Place, so it's much easier to find, and we will send committee information once we have it. And again, we're planning for a larger gathering and hoping that we can have a few more people there this year.
Thank you, Rhonda, and please be sure to put me on the invite list. I kind of have a little soft spot for this particular property when I saw it go listed for sale, and I thought, oh, this would be something amazing for South Nation to manage. So I was really glad to see that had come to fruition, and it is a really lovely little place to have under the South Nation umbrella for sure. Russell, you have a question? You're on mute, Russell, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, will there be any signage in place eventually within this area? Driving by at different times, there's just trees with little ribbons on, and that seems to be all that's there.
Yes, actually, thanks. Good question. So what you're seeing on the slide is actually what the sign will look like. It's in production now, so it should be up shortly. So this will be a sign that will be along the roadside to help identify the site. So just been approved through our working groups. So you're seeing the 4 languages there: English, French, Mohawk, and Algonquin for the healing place.
Perfect.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions in this regard? Seeing none. That will be it for the staff update at this time, Rhonda?
Correct.
Okay. So as always, we ask sort of a round table of community engagement. I know the world's a little different and we're not out and about as much, but has there been an opportunity for anyone on this committee to engage or discuss or talk about the clean water programs and any of the programs South Nation offer? Now is your time to speak. Hearing none, we'll move on from there. Oh, Bill, your hand came up. I see you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did make a presentation to the North Dundas Council where I covered various topics, including the work that's being done by Clean Water, and there were no real questions on it, but it was presented 3 or 4 weeks ago to the North, virtually I might add, to the North Dundas Council.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Thank you. So we're on to number 8, is new business, and you'll find this in pages 22 to 23 in your agenda package.
Thank you, Madam
Rhonda,
Chair.
are you going to speak to this one? Okay,
so I'll draw your attention to the table on page 23. This is the financial statement for the Eastern Ontario Water Resources Program as of August 31st of this year. If you can draw your attention down to item 5A, apologies, there is a typo. The amount that was approved was 12,000, not 10, which then leaves item number 5B, 11,800, which we just approved to the project under business arising. So we have a budget of just over 97,000 this year, with contributions from United Counties of Prescott Russell, which is a special project, floodplain mapping. City of Ottawa's usual 50,000 contribution. We have 22,000 and change carrying forward for projects that were approved last year and are being completed this year. Just under 75,000 spent to date. We are forecasting about 91,000 spent at year end, with a small carryover under the South Bear Brook catchment study, which is item 4B. That will be to complete the final reporting in the new year, given that there will be some data analysis over the winter. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the financial statement as amended, Madam Chair.
So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder, and then we'll have some discussion. Moved by Doug Thompson, second by Tara. Right. So then we're open for questions now. Did either one of you have? Right. Any questions? Seeing no hands, I'm looking for anyone not in favor of this motion. Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you all. So item B is an update on the summary of the Clean Water Program applications. Again, Rhonda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, just the covering report on page 24, a reminder that projects must score 21.5 points at the June or September meeting to be approved. And I just see a typo in my report. The June should say September. Any projects scoring less than 21.5, but above the minimum score of 15 will be placed on the waiting list. The waiting list will be addressed at our next meeting in November by the committee. We did have a budget of 60,000 this year for grants, and if you flip on to the corresponding pages, you'll see a breakdown of projects and where we stand as far as funding allocated. So on page 25, table 1 is a summary of the projects that were approved at the June 7th meeting. So we had 19,000 allocated to 11 projects. Table 2 is a summary of the projects that came before you under business arising. So again, the first cover crop was approved, the second cover crop was denied, and we rescored the other projects. So at the end of our review of today's applications, I can let you know which one of those have been approved. Page 25 are the new applications coming to you today. So CWs 26, 27, 28, and 29. And if you flip the page to 26, table 4 is the waiting list of projects that came forward from the June meeting. The erosion projects that were scored CW3 and CW06, I did not include them there as they're on table 2 on the previous page, but they are also were on the waiting list. And the summary at the bottom, table 5. So again, we had 60,000 available this year in the budget for grants. We do have confirmation from a landowner that was approved last year that they're not proceeding. That freed up $5,000 from project funds in 2020 that were carried forward. We approved 19,000, so today we have 46,000 available for funding. If all the projects were approved under business arising, it was a 25,781 request. The new applications total a request of 9,262 and change. So if we do approve all projects today, with the exception of the one we did deny under business arising, there will be funding still available for the November meeting, at which time we'll address any new applications received between now and then, as well as the waiting list from June and this meeting, if any. So that's where we've landed as far as the summary. Happy to answer any questions. There's no recommendation required. This is just for information purposes.
Any questions of Rhonda? Seeing none. Thank you, Rhonda, for the update.
Okay, I'm just going to switch slide decks. We can start, Madam Chair, with the first new project, which you'll find on page 27.
Thank you for that. So we are working with page 27, and who's up first?
It's Jason.
Hello again. This file here, correct me if I'm wrong, Rhonda, I think they applied or wanted to apply last year, but there wasn't funding available. So they're bringing it this year. The work, as you can see, has been completed. They placed armor stone over the geotextile. They planted native species. You can see the pictures in the here showing the plants. I guess for the erosion side of things, this will help any future erosion. I'm just not too clear on how extensive the erosion was before. You can see the photo on the bottom left. There is some native vegetation there. There may be some erosion of the banks underneath or at the water line, but that's the extent that I see anyways.
Okay, so questions of Jason in regards to this project. There was, so I'm going to start off, Jason. There was no site visit done prior to the work being done?
That's right. Yeah.
And the photos that we are basing our decision on are just the erosion that we're seeing, what is determined as erosion by the photographs, correct?
Right, the one on the bottom left, yes.
Okay. Any questions? So I have another question, Jason. Is this meeting the conceptual designs that we have sort of out there for erosion control and what they've done?
Yes, it does. It will work to help stop the erosion. But comparing this to other files that we've seen, it's the call of the committee to decide on.
Okay. So the next steps for us to do, as usual, is to rate this project based on the information provided. Okay, so I will allow Rhonda to proceed with that. Seeing no questions.
Okay. Number 1.
5.
Number 2.
5.
Number 3.
5.
I'm sorry, number 5. Five, you're muted. Okay, I'll come back to number 5. Number 7.
4.
Number 9.
4.
11.
Oh, that's me?
Yes.
Okay, 2.
12.
4.
13.
3.
14.
5.
15.
3.
16.
5.
18.
5.
And Alan, are you there?
Yeah, 2.
Thank you. 4.0 or a total score of 18.0.
Thank you. Next project.
I see Andre's hand up, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry, Andre, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I really like the pictures on the right-hand side, not this one, but the one before. And I'm wondering, I mean, if we could use these pictures, I mean, to want to do any promotion, because I understand that this applicant went ahead without any fund from the Clean Water Program. He went ahead by himself.
That's correct.
Yes, he did contact us, but at the time we were not accepting applications.
So the application came in afterward?
I believe so.
Yes.
Lori can confirm, but probably was after we stopped doing site visits last fall. Is that correct, Lori?
Yes. And he was told that if he's planning to proceed with any projects or do any work, as long as he keeps his receipts and documented paperwork that's required, he could still apply for a grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, so this is with, what are we on, 27?
27, yes, this is Renee's project.
Okay. Go ahead, Renee.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This well is a combination dug and drilled well. And as you can see by the two photos, the dug part was very, very primitive. And then it is drilled in the bottom of the dug well. And that well was right beside the driveway. There used to be a house. The house was demolished, I think, sometime early spring. And I did the site visit in June. And I imagine by now the new house is being built a little bit further west from this well.
Is there any questions of Andre? I'm just going to ask Rhonda for some clarification and guidelines. As a result of a new building the house, or?
We do not fund if it's related to either septic or severance, which I don't believe is the case here.
Okay, thank you. Just any other questions? So we need to rate.
Correct. So the subscore at the moment is 21 out of 22. Start with number 1.
5.
2.
Number 2 and 5.
Number 3.
5.
Number 5.
5.
Number 9.
5.
11.
Is that me? 7?
Yes.
11?
11,
5,
yes.
sorry.
That's all right. Number 12.
5.
13.
5.
You. Danielle.
5.
Cute. 15.
5.
16.
5.
And 18.
5.
Is 5. 26 is the final score on that one.
I'm sorry, what was the final score?
26.0.
Thank you. Okay, next application on page 28.
29.
Sorry,
29.
I lie.
Yeah. And this one's Andre.
Yes, this is a cover crop. The applicant is a dairy farmer, and the fields, it's a 40-acre field, which you can see, which it was in stereo this year, and it has been, well, it's not as, at the time of the picture, there was nothing in it, but the intent was to put in the cover crop, which would be rye and peas. And there's a ditch which you cannot see, but the far behind the trees there. So basically, and the purpose basically is to improve the soil structure and maybe the soil texture at the same time. So that's why he wants to, and it'd be in soybean next year, which would mean that the winter rye would be tilled in the spring.
Okay, Bill has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But my question, this is somewhat similar to the one we talked about earlier that we were kind of negative about because he harvested it after using it as a cover crop in the winter. Is the intent on this one to plow it down in the spring or to again harvest it in the spring, summer?
No, he intends to till it in the spring for soybean next year. Oh, am I mute?
No, you're good,
No,
Andre.
we can hear. You're good.
Madam Chair, I didn't understand the response, but may I hear it again?
Yes,
So
he intend to till it in the spring, and it'd be soybean next year in 2022.
Okay. Is that
Thank you.
clear, Bill?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Any further questions in regards to this?
I see Alan's hand, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question, Andre. The application itself actually says he's going to no-till soybeans into that in 2022. Is he actually going to no-till it, or is he going to work it up?
Oh no, it'd be no tail for soybean. Sorry, it'd be but
Okay.
Yes.
So is there any more clarification needed on what the farmer's going to do or an explanation of why he's doing what he's doing for other committees, members? right. Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and, oh, hands up, Bill.
So having
Go
heard
ahead.
the explanation, thank you, Madam Chair. So having heard the explanation, does the request fit into our terms of references?
Yes.
Yes. Even though he's no tilling in, it's still not a harvestable crop. He's not going to harvest it. Is that correct?
That's correct. He's not going to harvest it now. He'd be
Yeah.
no till or maybe destroy, but he said no till.
Yeah.
I'm just double checking my math too on the prorated score. So it should be, it says 19.25. Apologies, that should be 20.6 is the sub score.
Alrighty. Okay. So we'll start with scoring.
Okay. Number 1.
5.
2.
3.
3.
4.
Number 5.
5.
Number 7.
5.
Number 9.
4.
Number 11.
4.
13.
5.
14.
3.
15.
5.
16.
4.
And 18.
3.
4.2 for a total score of 24.8.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Rhonda. So we're on to page 30, I believe.
Correct. And this one's Jason.
And Jason, you're back.
I'm back. Yeah, so this one.
Oh, you never left.
Yeah, that's right. You can't get rid of me.
No.
This one has some, as you can see in the photos, there is quite a bit of erosion here. And what the landowner is proposing to do is to cut back the banks steeper than 3 to 1, having it tied into the existing grade. They'll be placing a 5-inch to 8-inch gabion or clean gabion over geotextile, and they'll be putting a native or soil with native plants or to the native vegetation, I guess you could say. The top right photo, you can see there's some dogwood and such. So there will be a buffer towards the top. Erosion is about, at max height, is about 4 feet, so there is quite a bit of a drop at some spots there.
Right. Any questions of Jason at this time? Of course, the buffer again is the requirement of the application. I see Alan's hand went up, went down.
Yeah,
No
it was
question?
about the buffer. It's not in the sketch.
No, but again, it's upon approval, it's a part of our application. Jason, was there any discussion about that 3-meter buffer?
Yeah,
Conceptual
I guess I'm just
design.
noticing now it's not on the sketch, but there is a discussion. Yes, and actually you can see if you look on their photo. I don't obviously have it here, but you can see that there is actual 3-meter natural kind of buffer along the shoreline already as it is. So they're just tying into that.
All right. Okay. Bill, you have a question?
Yes, Madam Chair. And so when I read it and heard the explanation, I'm not sure I heard that the new topsoil at the top was going to have the 3 meters, the requisite 3 meters of native plants or shrubs or whatever. Did I miss that?
Yeah, so there, that green topsoil is the area that's going to get tied into the existing grade, and then my understanding is that they're leaving it go natural, and then naturally, and it's tying into the existing natural shoreline as it is.
I think it's important to have that confirmed. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you, Bill.
We can
Any other
certainly get that
questions?
noted on the plans just for clarification. Sure.
Yeah. And just if it scores out and receives funding, a reminder that those buffers are part of the payout, that they have to be verified and stuff as well.
Yes, and we can remind them in their approval letter if they are successful today in funding.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go through the scoring. Thank you, everyone.
Give me 1 second. Okay, number 1. Oh, see, number 1's not there, so we'll come back. Number 2.
4.
Number 3.
4.
5.
4.
Number 7.
5.
9.
4.
11.
5.
12.
5.
13.
4.
14.
4.
15.
5.
16.
4.
And 18.
5.
Okay, 4.4. 24.4.
Rhonda, I had to step away for a minute, so I don't know if
Yes.
you want me to vote or.
Did you see the presentation, Doug?
Yes,
I can add.
yeah.
Okay, sure. We can add you in. Go ahead. Your score.
4.
4. Okay, so that 4.4 is 24.4 is the final. Just bear with me for a second, and I can give you the sorted. So this is what it looks like. So these ones would be approved. Sorry, these ones here. Would be, so these are your 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 projects scored 21.5 or greater, which equates to 17,785,000 approved today. And on the waiting list, an additional 16,258 for these bottom 4 projects.
Rhonda, those are the 4 that were lower scored today, not all on waiting list. Is that correct?
Correct. So these first 3 here were business arising that we rescored. The last one, number 26, is a new project from today.
Okay.
So
and
we
could
have,
you just remind the committee how many more are on the waiting list from previous?
give me 1 second. I can tell you there will be 28,000 funding available for November, for the November meeting, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects from the June meeting, totaling 15,320. So that gives a total on the waiting list of 31,500.
Okay. Just gives a little better picture of what's pending and
Yeah. So again, this is
what
we
could
have.
move forward based on
Yes.
monies.
So that's
Okay.
available funding for the November meeting.
Okay. Is there any questions in that regard? So do you need a motion to approve the projects?
Yeah, so we'll need an emotion to approve the table I just had up, those projects scoring above 21.5, and further that the remaining 4 projects be put onto the waiting list.
It's Glenn, and I would approve.
Thank you, Glenn. Second by
I see Danielle's hand.
Danielle. Thank you very much. Anyone opposed at this time? Bill, you're opposed?
No, Madam Chair, I'm not opposed. I had a question.
Okay.
The amount left in the account was quickly flashed and I missed it. Could I
Sorry?
just hear that figure again?
Yes, it's
Sure.
$28,215 present.
Thank you very
We
much.
also-
And no, I'm not opposed.
Thank you. Sorry, Rhonda, go ahead.
I'll let you call the question, Madam Chair, and then I can
Is
just,
any-
add a comment.
Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion's carried. Bill, if you just want to put your hand down, thank you.
Put it down for
Oh, okay. No, it's good. It's good now, Bill.
So typically what we will do also, any projects that were approved in 2020, if we've not heard back from them, we will be checking in. There's a potential that there may be additional funding if any of those projects don't proceed or come in at a lower amount. So right now it's 28,215. It may be slightly higher if we have any surplus resulting from 2020.
So Rhonda, is there a cutoff date for those that you can, be sure by November meeting that they're not moving forward and they
Yep. So we
surpass
have
their deadlines?
the next meeting date is the 29th of November. So we'll be touching base with folks at the beginning of the month. There may be a few projects that have November 30th approval dates from last year. If they've not started their project, then it's a pretty good indication that they'll either need to come back and request an extension or confirm that they're not proceeding. So we'll have those confirmations in place before the next meeting for the committee.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. So seeing that there was no supplemental, we'll move right on to correspondence.
So I did include an article that was in the French magazine, just for your information. There was an article on controlled tile drainage, and if you look on page 33, you'll see on the right-hand side, midway down, our friend Mark LaFleche, who had regrets for today's meeting, but he was featured with some of the control structures that are on his and his brother's farm. So I thought we'd include that for your information.
Thank you very much. So as Rhonda indicated, the next meeting is November 29th at 9 a.m. And we'll hopefully get some more projects and monies out there and get those projects on the ground and things moving. But in the meantime, I hope everybody who farms to have a safe harvest. And I'll look for an emotion to adjourn.
So moved, it's Alan.
Thank you, Alan. And thank you everyone for coming on board today. It was a pretty short meeting for a Clean Water Committee meeting, so we're getting more efficient at this, I guess. And as noted, definitely not as many projects. So things have slowed down for our site reps as well. So that's where we need your support to get that community engagement out there. So that's seeing none. And adjourn. Everybody have a good day, and I'm off to Vancouver. So I'll see you in a week or so.
Awesome.